they've done this thing now where they're having morning press conferences. I think this makes so much sense. I'm surprised actually this hasn't been done sooner. This hasn't been the standard for a longer period of time. Because, yeah, this lets them set the agenda. This lets them get out there and tell everybody this is where the White House is on this issue. They don't have to respond in the same way to the morning news cycle of the opposition media. They get to say, here's what we are focused on. Oh, we saw that report. Before you run another one, we are telling you what actually happened. Or before you run another fake news piece, here is the background you need to maybe print a correction or a retraction, whatever it may be. But today's morning briefing was about common sense. This is cut two. Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, laying out the overview before she handed it over to Stephen Miller.
Everything in President Trump's agenda is grounded in one thing: common sense. While the Democrat Party went off the deep end and doubled down on pure craziness, President Trump pledged to restore common sense back to the United States of America. In a little more than 3 months, that's exactly what he's done. He recognized that America is a sovereign nation that cannot survive if it does not protect its territorial borders. The president knows his top responsibility is ensuring the safety of the American people, which is why he's arresting violent illegal alien invaders in our communities who threaten our public safety. And it's unacceptable to President Trump to allow rampant waste, fraud, and abuse of Americans' precious tax dollars, which is why the president championed a historic DOGE effort that saved nearly $200 billion already. President Trump stood up for the Constitution's promise of colorblind equality before the law, so he terminated radical DEI preferencing in federal contracting and directed federal agencies to relentlessly combat private sector discrimination.
Clay, common sense is actually, if you had to find one principle or one theme where Democrats are just on perpetual defense and Republicans can continue to just stomp them into oblivion, they lack common sense.
It is, I think, as we come out of the 100 days, one of the clarion calls of the first 100 days has been trying to come up with an argument that Democrats have against what Trump has done. And if you notice, I mean, yesterday I referred to it as sort of a drunken, flailing argument. They can't keep the focus on anything. I'll give you an example right here as we sit 102 days out. Did you know, Buck, that stocks actually ended up higher at the end of April than they were at the beginning of April? That is, after all that chaos where they said, oh my goodness, look at where the stock market is. And we tried to say, hey, stay calm, don't overreact, recognize that there is a plan in place. If you bought the dip, you have now made 10% on the dip alone. And in the past year, as I am looking at the S&P 500, stocks are up 12%. On average, stocks are going to be up 8 or 9%. So in the last year, you've actually done better than you would over the historic average. And if you're saying, okay, well, what about, Clay, compared to where they were in January or February? Okay, they're down from January or February, as stocks sometimes are, but they're almost identical to where they were at the beginning of November last year. And if 7 months ago, you didn't feel like you were incredibly poor and your family finances were completely lost, then you're basically the same place you were 7 months ago. Stocks ebb and flow. If you bought the dip, you've actually made a lot more. So they left behind the stock market as it's come back up substantially, Buck, and they went to what? They went to Abreu Garcia, an El Salvadoran gang member that we now know has multiple different reports in the state of Maryland, including one where his girlfriend at the time, I think now wife, said he's threatened to kill her and she needs protection from the state.
And told her that he could kill her and get away with it.
Yes.
Which sounds like something that a hardened gang member would say to me. I don't know many people that will make that
most
claim.
People wouldn't know how to dispose of a body and get away with a murder, but also it is indicative, I think, of how desperate and diluted the attempt to make him the front-facing opposition to the deportation crisis has been, that you would pick a guy who has this demonstrated record of violence. I don't know, what percentage of men do you think have threatened to kill their wives and dispose of their bodies and get away with it? Maybe 5%. To be really,
Well,
like it doesn't happen that often. And I think probably there's women out there listening right now that have been more likely to tell in a joking way their husbands that they could kill them and distribute the body and get away. Like the number of men that would have threatened their wives in a serious way that would have made you fear for your life such that you needed to go to the police and file a report letting everybody know, hey, this guy's probably the person who's going to kill me. He's made this threat. I don't think it's that common out there in husband-wife relationships. And if by chance you are listening to me right now and you have a husband that you are afraid might kill you one day, I would suggest to you that's probably not a healthy relationship and maybe you should be somewhere else, or a boyfriend for that matter. And I think this is just symptomatic of sort of the drunken inconsistencies jumping from one thing to another. I'm not even sure what the opposition to Trump is. And people say, okay, well, Trump's approval ratings after the first 100 days are not great. Well, what I would say is, okay, tell me a Democrat who is within 15 or 20 points nationwide that has anywhere near the approval of Trump. People in general, I think, just don't like politicians right now. There's generally speaking, an anti-politician, anti-incumbent universe. And so I think the fact that Trump is in that position right now is actually not a sign of any incredible lack of strength from him. I think it's just that Democrats haven't been able to find any kind of opposition figure for him.
and you have Stephen Miller stepping in at this press conference, going absolutely scorched earth and touching on a whole range of issues. But this is one of my favorites because these reporters, and this is true of Democrats so often, these reporters pretend they care so much about Abrego Garcia and his rights and everything else. But as Miller points out, they don't want to live next to any suspected MS-13 illegal alien gang members. They want to go to country clubs where nobody like this would even be allowed to serve them food, right? They want to go to places that are very exclusive, and yet here we are watching them all pretend, go through these motions like suddenly they are all about the downtrodden and the downtrodden gang member. Here's Stephen Miller, play 3.
Each and every one of you that sides over and over again with these MS-13 terrorists, to the extent that you have the financial means to do so, you all choose to live in condos or homes or houses as far away from these kinds of gangbangers as you possibly can. If I offered any one of you a rent-free home with no taxes to pay in any of these gang neighborhoods, and I said your neighbors are MS-13 terrorists or Mexican mafia or Sinaloa cartel or Tren de Aragua, I couldn't pay you to live there. But yet you, with your coverage, are trying to force innocent Americans to have these people as their neighbors, and that one day their daughter may be abducted from their home and raped and murdered. So you're not going to get an ounce of sympathy from this administration or President Trump for the terrorists who've invaded our homes and our country.
Clay, it's true. All these reporters, a lot of whom live in, Northern Virginia, right across the Potomac River. They live in condos in Ballston, or they maybe have a place in Glover Park where they are paying down the mortgage or whatever. They absolutely do not want any gang members around them. It's somebody else's problem, but they get to preen for the cameras.
The number of people who claim that walls don't work that live in gated communities is off the charts. I mean, just almost anybody who makes a significant living in D.C. lives in, to your point, Northern Virginia, where it's comparatively safe, or Southern Maryland in the Rock Creek area, that Montgomery County, right? Or they live in super safe parts of D.C., often with security everywhere surrounding them. And so it is the case that very often, and people see through this, that the people who are having to deal with day-to-day crime in their lives overwhelmingly want more police and security. And then the people who have absolutely no risk whatsoever in their day-to-day existence, they somehow look at the people who want more police and security and argue, oh, the police are too much of a hindrance for you. It is the height. Someone wrote this and said this, and once you hear it or see it, you cannot stop recognizing it. People on the left in this country, they talk left and they live right. And once you see it, they get married, they have nuclear families, they have houses in very safe suburbs. They put their kids in private schools, and then they lecture everyone else about how it's fine to make decisions that are not beneficial. Have as many kids as a single parent as you want. Oh, don't worry about your school districts. The amount of lecturing from people who don't live the way they lecture you should be comfortable with people living, is off the charts. Everybody in left-wing media talks left, and they live right in their actual lives. Think about it. Look, Pure Talk right now. You're trying to save money on a cell phone. I can save you a bundle. My 14-year-old has a Pure Talk cell phone. My 17-year-old has a Pure Talk cell phone. Just texted with them earlier on those phones. I trust them to be in touch with me through the Pure Talk network. And right now you can save a bundle, just $35 a month, unlimited talk, text, 15 gigs of data, and a mobile hotspot on America's most dependable 5G network. Coverage just as good as one of those other companies, because Pure Talk utilizes the same towers networks of one of those big companies spend so much money. You can switch to Pure Talk for just $35 a month, get your cell phone bill cut in half, and you can get a brand new Samsung Galaxy for free. All of that taking place right now. All you have to do is go to your phone right now, pound 250, say Clay and Buck. That is from your phone right now, pound 250, say Clay and Buck. You can save up to $1,000 over the course of a year. How much difference could that make for you as you come into Thanksgiving and the New Year and the holiday season, when you're going to end up spending way more than you hope to? Save a bundle up to $1,000 over the life of your year, and you can trust the same company I trust to stay in touch with my kids. Pound 250, say the keywords Clay and Buck. Make the switch to Pure Talk today. That's pound 250.